Hi coaches, Lee Dunn here with another Game of the Week video for you. We're looking at a 2v1 to 2v2 small-sided games. We'll start with the size of the fields, probably 20 by about 30. Again, dependent on your players. Younger players, you may take 5 or 10 yards off, depending on their ability too. Older players, more skillful players, you could play in a bit more space, but then also you could play a little smaller to challenge their touch. So I want to highlight some of the starting points. Set 2 yellow pointy cones on both sides of the game here. This is going to be our offside line, but it's also going to be our starting point of reference for our defenders. We get them up away from the goal, get them in pressure really quickly on the players with the ball. It makes it a little more realistic. As soon as they get the ball, they're immediately under pressure. Looking for a coaching position again. If there's 2 fields running like this, then you may find yourself in between the 2 fields, so you're set up in a good position to be able to see both. I prefer this end of coaching, so you can see as the play develops moving forwards. You could find yourself back here later on, depending on how your players are doing, especially if we're looking at the right-hand side of the field, where you may be checking on the players' movement too. Soccer balls between the goals or by the goals down here. We do have counter-attacking goals for these defenders, of course. A variation, 2 in the corners or 1 in the middle, depending on what you like. Really, put 2 in the corners. It could be then that this is a central midfielder here. It could be a number 8 for the red team, winning the ball and distributing to the 7 and 11, who would be the wide forwards. And then the same on the right-hand side. This could be our centre-back playing into a central midfielder in this gap here. But they always have a counter-attacking goal, because then it keeps them interested. It gives them an opportunity to have success also. So we'll start with the game on the left. Simple, quick, short pass in, following along the dotted arrow into the player's movement, who's moving forwards, and then a dribble. Looking to engage in this red defender, and the idea of dribbling out here, out into the left, is that it brings this attacker out. Now, in bringing the attacker out here, remember this is 2v1, it creates a lovely pocket of space in here. So once the blue has played the ball, as a coach, sometimes we'll be focusing on what this guy does, looking for his or her first touch and their dribble and so on. But we often forget about this player. And this player is key in here, because once they start moving up into these gaps here, and not right into it, but holding off, because this wonderful area is where we want to receive the ball, not wait to receive the ball. So the ball, we're looking at a simple 2v1 here. We have our let's say our number 3 out here on the left, engaging with the defender, and then a simple cut into that space there. Our now player, that could be the number 4, it could be the number 6 who's played wide, is now engaging and then coming into the space and being able to play through to score a goal. But don't forget that we don't have to pass, and this is often a problem that our young children face, and sometimes as coaches too. There's no rules in soccer that say you have to pass. So as my player is now dribbled up into this gap here, you may find the red, after a bit of experience, will be caught, and they'll start to do a little cheat. So they'll stay in this gap. And the perfect thing for our players, if we've worked on all of our previous games of the weeks, we know that we have skills to exploit this space. And they only need an element of space, just a yard, and then the goal is there to score. Ultimately, we're still scoring goals. We're still trying to finish in a game. This could well be a real goal, but it could also be a through ball. It could be some kind of splitting pass or into one of our players' feet. So the objective is to always score in this game. So our players have decisions. They can pass if the red comes and engages here, but if the red decides to stay in this space here, now my player who's got the ball, I'm developing clever players who can then make a decision whether they're going to beat the player or not. I then add in, if I want to challenge my players a little further, my red player out here. Now he's inactive right now, but when blue gets the ball down here, we can start a little timer. If we want to play with a bit of speed, we can add in a timer of 5, 6, 7 seconds, whatever it may be, to then give them this time and speed to then go and score. And if they don't score within that time, or if they still maintain possession because they're going sideways and not going forwards, this additional pressure could come in and start building on them. So it ends up in a 2v2. It also gives this red player a bit of motivation to delay. So whilst we're working on the 2, because we have a 2v1 advantage, we're still giving our red player a reward, and it keeps them engaged, as it is with them scoring goals. Now they're going to have a second player come in. I also like to have this second player come in as soon as my red player in here wins the ball. So we have an element of transition too, just like a real game. It also keeps this player engaged. If you tell a player that they're on the sideline and they're waiting for their go, they're soon going to lose interest, they're soon not going to have fun, when actually they're key in this game, because the moment we win the ball, as in we, the red team, we should all be transitioning to attack. We have a quick look at the right-hand side of the field too. We're looking in here in receiving the ball with pressure on our back. Our red is already in here. We're using the yellow guideline as the cones to make sure the players are starting nice and high and realistic. And we're working on the movement of our blue player. My favorite thing, whether I'm playing 7v7 or 9v9, is to play with a target man, our number 9, playing into their feet. So this is my favorite way of playing, and I do this a lot with my players. So I start with my, who down here would be like a number 8 or a number 6, typically having the ball. If you really wanted to go further, you could say you've got a number 4 who's playing a bigger, deeper pass, and then you could expand this field perhaps to about 40 yards or so. But the ball being played in, now we're checking on this number 9's movement, see how they check out to take the red. So let's say the red's gone with them, so now the red's out in this space, and then a quick check in. Do they have to check that far? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on where the red is on their back. But for example, situation here, I've got the blue checking in. So as that ball goes into the feet right there, and now we've got to remember the position of the number 9. They're going to find it hard to score from there. Generally, the pressure is going to be on their back. They're going to be under pressure. The head's going to be down looking at the ball. And again, this is where the number 8 or your number 4, your number 6, whoever it is going to become key, because they are going to be able to relieve the pressure on the ball. They're going to receive, and they're going to be receiving facing forwards. So as they kind of join in the game, the ball is received in here. The red is on the back. Again, just like the game on the left, we have wonderful pockets of space like this, and we actually have all of this space back in here. Now, I've set it up so that it is exactly a 2v1 to start with. So that gives the blues the space and the freedom to be creative and work on beating this one defender. Just like the other game, does the blue number 9 have to pass? Absolutely not. They can certainly fake and then cut down in this outside here. Just because it's a smaller space doesn't mean we can't go down there. And a lot of it is going to be down to his fakes and his ability to shake that defender. As with before, a yard of space and we get ourselves a goal. So now blue has received the ball, he's got the ball at his feet right there, and then our second blue has kind of checked in and started receiving the ball out here. That's great. We're in the right positions. We're right where we need to be. Number 8 can score, then that's perfect. But with my more advanced players, I need to challenge them. I need to make this more realistic, and that's where this guy comes in play perfectly. Because it's like blue team have won the ball, they've broken pressure, they've played a perfect pass into number 9, but as we know, the other team is always going to recover, hopefully. And that's where this player checks in, and we give them, again, a time limit or a touch limit. Let's say there are 2 ways you could play this. We could play for 5 seconds, and then this red can check in. Now, if the blues are quick enough, then they're easily going to beat that time frame. And so this red, you might find, start losing interest because it's unrealistic for them to get back. So sometimes I like to challenge my number 9 and say, can you turn? Can you beat the player? And if you can't, can you play a pass that's going to lead your player over this yellow line? And if you can play a pass that's going to lead over this yellow line, then this red player down here can't get there. And that's what's going to take our blue number 8 or number 6 over and up into play, up in over here. Now, if your pass is a negative pass, that's okay, but it makes this red active, and it makes it for a 2v1. So now it's a little more realistic for this red to get back in, and it's also going to apply pressure on my number 9's receiving, my number 8, because then my number 9's going to play the ball, and this is where the game gets really deep. Number 9 wins the ball, plays a negative to number 8, but then what does he do from here? Where does he or she go? What are their movements like? Are they opening up for the ball? Are they then, now they've brought the red pressure in, there's a lot of space up in here for some kind of through ball, some kind of floated ball in, and number 8 can break the pressure from that red that's coming back to apply pressure too. So there's a couple ways you can make this game a little deeper in regards to not just receiving the ball at feet and go into the goal, but we add the levels of pressure and we make it as realistic to the game as possible. So I highlight up here the time limits, again based on the RPE, the rate of perceived exertion. We're looking at 2 to 4 minutes of reps, and that 2 to 4 minutes is typically going to be the amount of time we're going to spend on these red players in as defenders. They soon start to lose interest, they soon start to give up and not try as hard as they perhaps would have done at the start if we start going 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes even. So a couple minutes with our younger players, up to 4 minutes for our older players, and again depending on the week too. We might be looking on a practice like this on perhaps a Wednesday. we could be looking at 6 to 8 on the RPE. So we're challenging them. It's pretty hard. We don't have much to save our energy for, and this will give us time to recover, ready for the weekend. But if you do practice on a Friday then, and we're saving their energy because they're a little older or a little more advanced, then we might be looking perhaps for a 5 to 6 or maybe even a 7. So it's a little hard for them, and we can work at perhaps like a 2-minute window there. But if we want to work a little harder for our younger players, or we're in the middle of the week, then we could be looking for the 3 to 4 minute mark. And again, we use these 1 to 2 minute gaps in between for coaching. We use them for talking about patterns of play. So if our number 9 checks in here, what does our number 8 do? Where does he move? What could the number 9 do with the ball? So we use this minute or 2 minute of active recovery. So it's not just 1 or 2 minutes, okay, go sit down and talk about school. It's 1 or 2 minutes of learning whilst not necessarily moving and remaining engaged. So that concludes the Game of the Week video on our 2v1s and 2v2s. There's goals, there's plenty of balls, and we're trying to make it as realistic as possible, hence the added pressure from a 2v1 to a 2v2. If you look at any 2v1 opportunities in a game, they typically only last for up to 5 seconds, if that, at the highest levels. So really trying to make it as realistic as possible. And I find adding that pressure soon stops this second player dawdling when they get the ball, soon keeps them on their toes and engaged in the game, which is what we want for success, to be able to carry it over into our real life situations on a Saturday or a Sunday. So if you have any questions on this, definitely drop me an email, fire away on your questions. I'd love to help out, but keep it as realistic as possible, keep changing that defender, and keep challenging these players to be creative. They don't have to pass all the time. They have skills that we've worked on that we can develop, and we can encourage them to use. This type of situation of playing for between 2 and 4 minutes should give them plenty of opportunity to touch the ball, to make mistakes, and to learn from those mistakes. You find yourself in a wonderful coaching position like this in the middle, then you're able to impact both teams and use those 1 to 2 minute water breaks for active recovery and coaching, and you'll find a lot of success in small practices like this. Thanks and enjoy.